Hey, I couldn't be more pleased to bring you the Tech Vibe Radio One Mic Stand. Of course, it's Jonathan Kirsting from the Pittsburgh Tech Council and Tech Vibe Radio. And I'm really excited to talk to our guest today because, A, it's his birthday today, which I think is kind of cool. And on his birthday, he's taking the time to talk to us. We have Lance Hyde from Koppers hanging out with us today. Lance, welcome to the show, and thanks for taking a little time off from your birthday to hang out with me here on the One Mic Stand.
Thank you for inviting me. Glad to be here.
Excellent stuff, man. Excellent stuff. So Koppers is one of these really cool companies that I think sometimes we often forget about. I mean, they are a Pittsburgh institution, right?
Yes.
And literally without Koppers, like things like railroads don't really happen.
Right.
All types of crazy stuff. Before we get into the really cool initiative you guys spun up, the All In Pittsburgh initiative, just give our listeners just a little background about what Koppers is up to these days. And then I want to learn a little bit more about your background and what you're doing at Koppers and all that kind of fun stuff.
Okay, sure. So the first project that I took on at Koppers was the All One Pittsburgh Community Drive.
Yeah.
And the whole purpose of that is for us to try to distribute essential items that are necessary to help fight COVID-19, such as hard-to-find paper towels, toilet paper, disinfectants, wipes, hand sanitizers, hand soap. They're very challenging to be able to purchase these.
Yes.
And even more so for those who are in underserved communities that are financially constrained as well. So we saw a very strong need in the community to try to make a difference with that. So I reached out to my CEO last month and I said, would you be open to asking each of our employees within an organization here in Pittsburgh and asking your CEO fellow colleagues to ask their employees? Because as you know, Jonathan, there's a different dynamic when CEOs ask their employees to do something for the general public.
You tend to get more results sometimes, right?
Just a little bit.
a little bit. Especially when Leroy Balls have to ask, because Leroy's a really good dude. And we've known him for years. I know he's one of those where he sees, where he sees there's a need, he's going to step up and he's going to bring his fellow CEOs in to help as well too, right?
Absolutely. So he was very open to the idea. He thought it was a great idea. And I thought it would be really good for us to partner up with a nonprofit organization that could serve as a fiscal sponsor.
Right.
So I suggested the Urban League of Greater Pittsburgh, where he also served on the board. By virtue of him being on the board, there's great transparency there, which we didn't have any concerns anyway.
Right.
But that gives even more of protection. So when we reached out to Esther Bush, who's the president and CEO of the Urban League, she thought it was a fabulous idea. We immediately started working on it. So then we looked at it and said, okay, well, how are we going to get these products? We can get the money, but how are we going to get the products?
How do you source these things? I mean, because people can't find them, but you're going to find them, right? You have connections.
Right, because you figure if they're large corporations who distribute these or the big outlets, if they don't have them, how are we going to be able to all of a sudden come up with them? Right. So what we did, we started raising money, and to date right now, we've raised over $65,000.
Wait, back up, $65,000.
$65,000, and that's in the form of corporate donations from large corporations,
right,
as well as individual contributions. So collectively, to date, over $65,000, which
awesome.
We believe this is awesome for only a month's worth of campaign.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So then So then one of the purposes too of the Urban League, they have a good close ties with the community and the community centers who work with those who are in need. So as you know, Jonathan, it's very important, and it's a duty incumbent upon each of us to do what we can to give to those that are less fortunate. So we've done this, partnering up with the Urban League. They've identified 6 different community centers in different districts. So we have Duquesne in the Mon Valley, Homewood, Homestead, Hill District, and so those are the areas that we're targeting. And we've worked with, again, 6 different community centers. We began our initial distribution about a week ago on Friday before last, and then had a very significant one last week and Friday. And I tell you, just seeing the people, their emotions, and hearing the expressions of gratitude, it's just indescribable.
I know, yeah.
And back to the security part. So again, the challenge that we overcame with that was felt, why not just leverage, first of all, our own internal existing resources, our buying team, so our purchasing team and our procurement team. And as you're probably aware, most corporations don't really have a need for paper towels and toilet tissue because everyone's working at home. So what we did is utilize the resource and the connections that our purchasing team has with these different vendors that sell these products. So they have a large stock on hand. So we reached out to them, and the first week in delivery, we had over 9,600 individually wrapped toilet papers, over 7,500 individually wrapped paper towels, and over 700 a combination of disinfectants, hand sanitizers, and hand soaps for over 700 of these.
Wow.
So we've distributed out to different centers, and I tell you, it is a lot of work. And you're always going to run against challenges because this is unprecedented territory.
Right.
But I will say that seeing the residents receive this, it's so gratifying. I can't even describe.
I mean, you're helping so many people, and at this, like you said, in this time of need, it's just absolutely crazy. We would never guess in a million years that this would be happening, right? And the idea that Koppers and bringing this whole community of other companies and then quickly put this together and get it out there, that's pretty amazing to dedicate those kind of resources. Really cool stuff.
It is. And if at one point it looked like, how are we going to be able to do it? The spirit there, the will is there, and the intent's there, but how are we going to be able to pull it out? Because, but again, reaching out to kudos to our purchasing team and our procurement team, because they just did a fabulous job. And I have to say, without them, these products eventually would have come to the underserved communities, but it probably would have been at least a month later.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, you guys like that fast. It's
very fast.
That's what's so cool about this. So how are you going to continue to keep growing this? I mean, obviously the need's going to continue for quite a while. How are you going to keep after this and keep on it?
Good question. So the good thing is, thus far, we've only utilized about $15,000 of the 65.
Oh, you got a lot to go then. Wow.
So we can do at least, and these are massive waves that we had of products. So we can do these at least 3 times and plus a few more, a little bit more with extra money. Plus, as of right now, we're not proactively soliciting donations, but if people want to contribute to it, we still haven't closed the branch yet.
I believe it. Very, very cool. So I want to learn more about your background and what you do with Koppers. How long have you been at Koppers for?
I've been at Koppers now 2 months and 2 days.
Oh, wow. You're like brand new. Excellent.
Brand new. I'm still a rookie.
So is this a new position that they've created at Koppers that you're filling right now to lead up diversity and inclusion?
It is.
That's
And
awesome.
actually, it's twofold. And just to kind of give you a genesis of how this position came about.
Totally.
I was with the previous employer, and I established myself here in the last 7 years in the diversity arena. So I was involved in a program called TALLY, and that's an acronym for the Atlanta Leadership Initiative at Carnegie Mellon University. And the whole purpose of that is to advance African Americans in executive level positions. So they took it next step further and reached out to all the CEOs who belong to TALLY, and they said if there's anything you could do to try to find work for a number of members within their particular cohort.
Right.
So I met up with Leroy Ball. He and I met for lunch. We talked over a number of different things. And he said, before I decided to create this position, I just want to get a sense to get the pulse of my leadership team.
Totally.
Because he didn't want it to come from an aspect of an edict. He wanted to make sure that they had their buy-in, understood the importance of it, which made sense. Because he said, Lance, when I do it, it's going to be successful. So
he rolls, man. I mean, he's not going to do anything haphazardly. I know him. And he's like, when he does something, he's going to do it right.
Goes all the way with it. And I can tell you, just from the 2 months, the level of teamwork, the spirit of collaboration, and the willingness to be acceptive to different ideas is unparalleled to any organization that I've ever had any connection to at all.
I believe it. So, I mean, how cool is it that like you're on the job for 2 months, man? And like, this is one of the first big things you get to take on. I mean, talk about feeling like you can have some immediate impact, right?
Yes, it is. And it's personally gratifying for me, Jonathan, because I come from an underserved community. You know, years ago, growing up as a child, my parents, they didn't have much money. They had my sister and me at very young ages. But they believed in hard work and they believed strongly in education. Right. So at one point, the 4 of us lived in a 1-bedroom apartment.
Wow.
My sister and I lived in the living room. She had the couch. Of course, I had the mattress on the floor. Being the youngest, she knows what happens,
exactly.
Right?
I know how it goes.
So, but you grow up with that same type of indoctrination and that community of the low-income community that never leaves within inside. That's instilled in you. So what it did, it always created an affinity for me to want to give back to underserved communities.
I mean, it strengthened you, right? I mean, because you understand where this is happening from and everything. And so being able to now be in a position where you can then really multiply and bring back to folks that need it, it's just got to be so cool.
Absolutely. And I guess you're right, but I guess that spirit of giving is also originated from the fact that 29 young men who I grew up with in our community, who are like brothers to me. I love them. That's like family.
Okay.
They lost their lives to violence and a lot of different perils that existed, drugs, and this in our community. So that part of me is always a way of giving back to ensure that the next generation of young men and women who grow up don't have to face those similar type of circumstances. And they'll know that there is hope. There is a straight path that they can take, and it's about finding that path, because that path does exist in underserved communities, but it's about valuing education and knowing the power of inclusion. And that spirit is what stays in me, and what really motivates me to do things like this All One Pittsburgh campaign.
Yeah. So what else are you going to be working on at Koppers? I mean, I cannot wait for when you don't need to use the All One Pittsburgh program and we can start moving past this. But as we get back to a quote unquote normal, which who knows, but like, I mean, what else are you going to be working on with Koppers when it comes to all things diversity and inclusion these days?
Well, to answer that question, I would be less than honest. Leroy is definitely a genius, no doubt, but I would be less than honest if I was going to say that he foretold a COVID coming up when we met in December. Okay. So with that being said, he did hire me to do some other things. One of the things he hired me to do is to create a diversity recruit and retain strategy. He realizes that having a more diverse pool, he knows that, of course, a corporation is only going to be as strong as its talent pool.
Exactly.
So he knows the importance of pulling from a large talent pool, both genders, people from all ethnicities, all colors. He knows the importance of that. So he's hired me to develop a strategy that will enable us to be able to identify the top talent from across the country. Also a recruit strategy. So as you know, it doesn't do any good to bring people on if we're not going to keep them. So he's charged me with trying to identify what we can do to help retain top talent. So I'm in charge for that from the workforce perspective. On the supplier diversity side, that's when I'm going to be looking to bring more value, more innovative products, more innovative business solutions, services that will help impact the company's bottom line, that offer economical cost structure. So I've done it in my previous work, and we're going to be looking to make some substantive gains along that path by bringing in diverse suppliers that have a tremendous amount of value to add to our organization. In addition to that, we're also going to be I'll be heading up and leading the employee resource groups, which, you know, most organizations have ERGs for women, for people of color, for young professionals, working parents, veterans, various different diverse categories. So I'll be working with that. And then I'll also be heading up the company's I&D, which is our Inclusion and Diversity Committee. So I'll be giving guidance for our leadership council, our operating council, and throughout our organization.
Wow. I hope you have, you have an assistant, right? I feel like you need some help on this. You got your hands full, Lance. Come on.
Yeah, you know, that's a good idea. Would you like to convey that to Leroy?
I will. I'll tell him. I'll send an email right after this saying, look, I was just talking
to Lance. Come for me, right?
He's doing some good work. I think he needs a little bit of help.
A little bit.
No, that's awesome. It makes me feel so good to know that like companies like Koppers are doing this kind of work. And like you guys are stepping up and really putting your money where your mouth is across all of this, and the results are speaking for themselves so far. And you're only 2 months in.
Only a couple months in. A lot of times I've seen historically companies, they say that, but if you look at really analyze through the internal orientation, the commitment may not be as consistent with the external rhetoric. So with Leroy, he's created a position. This is not a backfill. He saw the need for it. And we're at a time right now where, let's face it, our economy is not the best. So you can always say, okay, what positions can we go without? And you can look at that and say, okay, there's one position, but that's not the approach he's taking. He says, this is our value. This is what we're about. We're going to continue to support this.
What an awesome story, Lance. I'm so glad you got to tell me about this. I think our viewers and our listeners are going to just love it. And I know they're going to want to learn more. And if they go to koppers.com, they can check that out and everything. And it's your birthday. Happy birthday one more time. And thank you for taking time to talk to us today. It's such awesome stuff, Lance.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Good luck.